Hey y'all, it's Bobbin, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Yoga of School podcast. In this week's episode, we talked to Diana Gallindo, a world citizen, nutritional therapist who loves food, and she shares with us about how food is important in healing ourselves and community.
And my passion is cooking food that is not just nutritious, but that it's so delicious. We have to really learn to reconnect to our bodies. We've never had so much information about food, and we've never, as humans, been so confused about what to eat. At the same time, my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's. Because I'm no longer able to help him, I want to help everybody I can. What we eat is going to directly drive not just our performance, but how we feel. How am I nourishing my body? And the best way is how am I feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally? I love food. I love good food. And I really love global cuisine. We do what's good for our brain, we're going to do what's good for our whole body.
All right, friends, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. And this is a fun one. Just transparency alert. This is going to be our first retake. So we are proud to and excited to welcome back to the program Diana Gallindo, who's a parent at our school and also a functional nutritional therapist. We first recorded this back in the spring when we were getting started, right? And we rushed it. I mean, that's the basic the basic takeaway that we had was we loved the content, but we did it at school. It was between 2 or 3 events, and we took our own advice, which was, hey, we need to find ways to slow down. We need to find ways to pay attention. And then if you do that, you actually might learn some things as well. So taking our own advice, we did, hey, let's do this one again. And we can slow it down and dig a little bit more deeply into some of the really powerful themes that came up. So thanks for being willing to do round 2, and thanks for being back with us.
I'm happy to be here.
Really grateful.
So you've got a really interesting background. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and then how you ended up in this role of functional nutritional therapist, and maybe what that is. Not all of our listeners will know that.
I was born in Cochabamba, Bolivia, the heart of South America. My mother was Austrian, so I grew up as a global citizen before anybody knew what that was. I ended up in Houston for a 1-year internship, and it's been 30 years, and I still think it's temporary. But anyway, to make a very long story short, I was in corporate. I served 20 years as Honorary Consul General of Bolivia, and then I had my daughter, and at the same time, my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So for the last 15 years, I've been bridging, parenting and finding my new calling. And through my dad's journey with Parkinson's, I became a functional nutritional therapist, primarily because I wanted to help him. And because I'm no longer able to help him, I want to help everybody I can develop a brain-first lifestyle, because at the end of the day, when we do what's good for our brain, we're going to do what's good for our whole body, mind, body.
Yeah, I love that connection. It's a big part of the work that I do, and I'm a stand for. So tell us about brain first. That's really a nice statement.
For the last 15 years, I've been reading and doing everything I can to learn about the brain. How do we, again, when we do what's good for our brain, we're going to do what's brain for our whole body. So the first pillar is resetting our nervous system. We were not designed to live in a chronic state of stress. So just learning to breathe, to connect with nature, to move our bodies, to gratitude, resetting our nervous system, nourishing our body. We have to stop thinking about eating healthy and really think, am I giving my body and my brain the best building blocks they need to function and perform at their best? The third is our sleep, because we know how critically important sleep is. Fourth is our digestion, because if you're eating the best food in the world, but we're having gut health issues, it's not going to absorb and digest them. And then we need to move our body, right? So rather than hitting the gym every day, it's, am I walking? Am I moving? Am I standing? Am I stretching?
Yeah. You use that word nourish, right? Talk about that a little bit more. I think it's an interesting word choice. And what are you're reaching for something with that choice.
There's so much confusion about eating healthy. All the time we're getting information that contradicts each other. Is egg yolks better? Is margarine better than butter? And is vegan better than? And at the end of the day, we're all very bio-individual. So the question is, am I giving my body what it needs? Am I nourishing my body? And for me, after all these years of learning all this information, there's 2 key principles. One is hydration. Our body is 70% water, and most of water is the #1 nutrient deficiency in the United States. We're drinking boba tea, we're drinking coffee, we're drinking lattes, and so we really need to hydrate our body. The second one is called nutrient density. Instead of thinking about calories, we need to think, how many nutrients am I getting in every bite? And I break it down into 3 components. One is, I call it the 3 amigos. We need to make sure we're getting quality protein, fats from nature, and carbs from plants. Always the 3 amigos every meal. Number 2, we want to get 3 to 4 colors on our plate, because then we're going to get a variety of nutrients. And 3, we want to get 9 to 10 plant foods a day. That sounds like a lot, but when you look at leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables, rainbow vegetables, you look at beans, whole grains, nuts and seeds, it's easy to get to your 9 to 10 plant foods a day. So when you do that, you're going to be increasing your nutrient density, and you're going to be giving your body the best building blocks to function and perform at their best. And your gut is directly tied to your brain, so we now know our mental health and our physical health really depend on the nutrients we give them.
Yeah. When I'm listening to you talk, I'm hearing in my head a conversation that's pitched at adults, right? But it's happening in school as well, like the nutrition of the students and how they're living and experiencing their life. What's going on with them at this time in their life around these themes? I mean, you see it as a mom, and then you also see it as a professional. Like, what's important in that space to get them to be able to pay more attention, or for us as adults that are older and sometimes providing the context of how they're going to eat, what should we be paying attention to so that they can be on that pathway you're talking about of optimizing, right?
I think we have to really learn to reconnect to our bodies, right? And with my daughter, I'm always asking her, if she plays a lot of competitive sports. So if she didn't have a good game, I'm like, well, did you get enough protein? Let's think back to what you ate, right? So if we can help our children and we can connect to how I feel, how's my energy through the day? Do I have steady energy? If I crash, then I have to go back and look, what did I eat, right? So again, our 3 amigos. Normally we didn't get enough protein or we didn't get enough fat. The other thing I really try to help my daughter learn is carbs from plants. We always want to think about carbs from plants. For all of human history, we were eating all our carbs from plants. So the refined carbs, which is normally what we think about today, if we can do 2 things, it's how am I feeling, how's my energy, how's my focus, how did I do on my test, right? Then I know I got enough nutrients. And 2, if we can come back to thinking about carbs from plants and not the refined carbs, we'll do better.
And for many, it's super obvious, but just when you say that phrase, carb from plants, like what are quick hitters in that space? Because sometimes I think people can overcomplicate the food space.
Yes, and this is what is so much fun, because we don't think about leafy greens and broccoli as carbs, but they're some of our best carbs, right? Because carbs, what do? They give us the glucose, which is the energy, but the carbs from plants also give us fiber, so they keep us satiated longer. That fiber also feeds our gut bacteria, which helps our brain perform better. It helps our mood. It helps regulate our mood. And then they also give us these micronutrients. We know about vitamins. We know how incredibly essential our minerals are, and most people today are deficient in some of these essential minerals. And it's the phytochemicals. Every color represents a whole family of preventative and healing compounds. That's why I always say, how many colors are we eating?
Yeah, I in my journey of coaching and helping clients, I often do an inventory of the medications they're using and the foods that they're eating, the type of diet they have. And when they're meeting with me, they are usually at a crisis point or right near that, right? And they're able to hear it. Okay, I maybe need to adjust something here. I'll do whatever you say, sometimes, or if I'm lucky. But I feel right before that, they're so inundated. People are inundated in our culture with what to eat, what not to eat, what diet to be on, what activity to be doing. And I think a lot of it just gets washed. And I remember for myself, whenever I had a health issue come up, that's when I really got connected to all the things you're saying. And I love hearing you talk, because it's stuff that I've learned recently or in the last few years, and it's like just ringing that affirmation bell.
Yeah, I think if we can just really, the easy way to cut through the noise, we've never had so much information about food, and we've never, as humans, been so confused about what to eat. So if we can just think back, what were people eating 200 years ago? What were people eating 1,000 years ago? All of human history, we got our food from nature. And this is where, whether we choose to be omnivore or vegetarian, I always really, really encourage my clients to think about, am I getting my food from nature, right? Because there's a real big difference between for example, soy that is processed and manufactured the way it is in the United States versus the soy products that have always been eaten in Asia that are, the tofu that is fermented, and then they're also eating it in very small quantities. They're not eating huge amounts of it, right? So at the end of the day, think back to what did humans eat? When we're confused, they're eating a wide diversity of plants. That's the one thing everybody can agree on, a wide diversity of plants. And we're eating foods as close to nature. There's a really big difference between beef that comes from the factory farmed animals versus the regenerative grass-fed beef that we know is highly nutritious, and those nutrients are much more bioavailable, meaning we can digest them and absorb them better, the protein in particular, and some of those micronutrients than we can from plant foods. So at the end of the day, it comes a personal choice whether we're omnivore or not, but we really always want to think, am I nourishing my body? And the best way is, how am I feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally?
Yeah. And that obviously, that kicks into kind of our overarching theme of the different conversations that we're having, which is this idea of wellness in a achievement culture. So we're in an achievement culture, whether it's, and look, your daughter, she's an All-American field hockey player, so she's out there in really high-level games. Our kids compete in very challenging leagues, with other young people that have the, kind of the drive that they have. So it's not easy, and that's at the end of the day, that's not counting all the things that happen in classrooms and the stretch that's happening there, but it's also stressful, right? And so we kind of lay this lens down on top of that. The food can probably help with that or get combusted by that, I think. And I've seen little things, right? Like the kind of snacks we have at the athletic games that are coming out of the coolers for, athletes, I think, have gotten healthier. I don't know if you had anything to do with that, but
no, I think there's a collective effort.
Yeah.
All of us know that what we eat is going to directly drive not just our performance but how we feel. So hats off to all the teen parents out there that are voluntarily looking for the best snacks for their kids.
Yeah, and what I love about that is that it's educational. Right, that in the midst of this competition, there's this sort of educational interface that, hey, there are choices, and there are choices here, right? And you have the ability to make good ones. It's pretty interesting. You mentioned you grew up in Bolivia. Does that influence your worldview around food and some of these ideas?
Very much.
Yeah.
Oh my
How
gosh.
might it?
I feel I was so lucky. Cochabamba, in the heart of Bolivia, in the heart of South America, was always considered the bread basket.
Yeah.
That's even during the Inca Empire. That's where a lot of the food came from. During the Spanish Empire, the silver mines of Potosí produced the silver that fueled the Spanish Empire funded the empire for 200 years, and the food for the mines came out of Cochabamba. So it is it's very Mediterranean, so everything grows there. So it had incredible, fruits and vegetables, any number of varieties. There's over 300 species of potatoes alone, so yes, very much.
So there's the growing of it.
There's a growing.
What about the consuming of it? Are there pieces out of that? The way people eat food together, the way they take food, the way that all happens. That part of the process for you as well.
Well, it was a very meat.
Yeah.
Where I was growing up, there was a lot of like Argentine meat, right? And then the Highland has a lot of potatoes and a lot of soups. But my twist to the story is my mother was from Salzburg, Austria. So I was growing up with very global cuisine. She would make Indian curry, and we would have Hungarian goulash. And so I think that really set the palate. And my passion is cooking food that is not just nutritious, but that it's so delicious. I believe profoundly that food is one of our greatest joys. It's a source of community. It's a source of memories. And I love food. I love good food. And I really love global cuisines.
Yeah, it's the sharing of the food that really lights me up, because it hits on the nutrition piece and the community piece that's so important for our well-being overall. We get to share every meal.
Yes.
It's so nice.
Awesome. Hey, one of the other things I was interested in exploring, what's coming up in my mind is this idea of fuel, right? And fuel and what feeds the interaction, what feeds the learner, what feeds the community. kind of a little bit abstract, but one of the other roles that you filled in our community, you were an amazing room parent coordinator. You coordinated. We worked together for I think 3 years, and we have this role in our school, room parents, and basically we come together once a month. The parents, the room parents representing the parents, and myself and my team representing the school, and we work through things, right? We have conversations, and there's this back and forth. And you were really good at that. That's not an easy role. You don't have any official power, but you were really good at it. And in some way, it was fuel. I mean, it was fuel for us. Can you talk about that? I mean, what made you so good at that?
Well, I believe, again, my mother being Austrian, my father being Bolivian, having that cross-cultural, just growing up in that environment. My father was also a very passionate advocate for democracy. He spent all his life trying to build democracy for Bolivia, so he was always out speaking. I don't know. I believe communication is one of the most powerful agents we have for nourishing not just ourselves, our families, our community. So I'm a big believer in communication.
Yeah. So just communication, good communication is fuel, kind of burns it a certain way, I guess, and then bad communication burns in a different way.
Well, it comes back to the idea of nourishment, right?
Yeah.
Is even the feedback from some parents in the classrooms, is this going to nourish our community? Is this going to, build a better experience for our children, for our school? Then that's the communication we wanted to, really cultivate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just on behalf of a lot of people, thank you, because I think you really, you brought that spirit to it. It was kind of a more percussive exercise when I first encountered it, and I think over time we've been able to kind of shift it into that space of we're partners in this experience, right? And we have our roles, but when we can understand them, and even if we don't 100% agree, if we can understand, I think that then we can move forward together.
Well, those are the two wings of the bird. It's not just the communicating, but it's the listening. So the best communication happens when you also are interacting with people who listen. And I think our community, our you in particular, our staff, our teachers, our admin, Ms. Vermeulen, are incredibly good about listening and being very receptive. So I think that's what allows the good communication.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Ed.
Try to keep it in that space.
Yeah.
You also, when we started with this idea of brain first, right? And you've got when you just sort of look at the whole education space, what do you think's in front of us? I think it's a huge moment, and what's going to happen? What needs to happen? What are you worried about? What are you excited about?
Who knows what's going to happen, but from where I'm standing at and having a daughter that's just starting high school, her world is going to be so very different from the world I grew up in. And we all know AI is coming on fast and furious, and I think a lot of questions are coming up, and one of them is what is going to differentiate us as humans, I believe, is an incredibly compelling idea to consider. And for me, and I think we've had a lot of this in some of the forums at Audi, is creativity, compassion are going to be absolutely essential. And all the venues that we have that encourage that creativity and that compassion, the reading, actual reading, because we know now with ChatGPT, they can create an essay for us. So really keeping our reading, keeping our arts as a form of creative expression, whatever form that may take it, whether it's theater arts or visual arts. I think, again, most of us, unfortunately, are far too sedentary. So coming back to contact with nature and being outdoors, I think is going to be incredibly important. So I think we have to really cultivate the best of what makes us human. And I think that is going to help us differentiate from this world, this incredibly digital technology, AI world that we're moving towards.
Yeah, I know when Heather first started at the school, she talked about the 3 E's, ethics, entrepreneurship, and empathy, right? And you touched on that entrepreneurship and that empathy piece, that it feels like, what are the humans going to do is a question we're asking more and more. And then that takes you to, what does it mean to be human? What are we offering then? And that creativity piece for me is also something that's just really coming strong. Like that seems primary. It seems fundamental. I don't know how you feel about that, but
Yeah, I had a realization maybe about a year or two ago, and I think I presented it to you in the form of a question. AI is looking like it's capable of becoming and doing almost everything. So what is the one thing that it can't do? And it doesn't have a soul, so it can't be. So we're human beings, we're our species, we're human beings, so our job is to be present, be creative, be loving, be kind, be helpful. That creativity piece as an artist, that's really important. But it's so weird because we wrote a song recently using AI and produced the thing, and that was a longer 6 months to a year process before, and we did it over in a matter of an hour.
Wow.
So it's like, wow, I'm able to craft pictures now and create imagery. My son, I took a picture of his hand last night, and we created a beautiful. I said, give me the prompt, and he created this beautiful prompt. There's a beautiful eye with sacred geometry coming out of my hand, and it did it instantly. So there are ways to engage in the technology to still be creative. So the technology is becoming creative. That's what I'm trying to point out.
Yeah.
That's, I haven't gone that far, yes.
Whenever I first posed a question to you, Tom in his wisdom said, not yet. I said, what's the one thing that AI can't do yet? And I said, being, and he said, not yet. Which was like, it was kind of appropriate.
Well, here's the other piece that I believe is different is community, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of the things that we're seeing happen right now, in particular in the United States, is we have lost that community. I think we've all heard now that loneliness is like smoking. More people are dying from loneliness.
Yeah.
And I think we really have a wake-up call to, again, help or cultivate the compassion in our children and really bring back a sense of community.
And then maybe that cycles us back to the food entry point, right? Because I think the taking of food has been a loneliness antidote for a long time, right? And it was a way to, thinking back in the Middle Ages, that day wasn't so great, and maybe I'm romanticizing it, but there's this moment where we have some food we can eat, and that all seems to be blown up by 21st century life, right? And people eating by themselves and eating food that other people fix for them, pre-packaged food, blah 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 blah, and I think it adds to the loneliness, right? And finding ways just to kind of web pieces back together, whether it's at the friend level or the family level or the community level is important. I think we have to just consciously do that now because the forces push it apart.
It has to be a conscious decision, a conscious choice to at least one meal a day if we can eat as a family. Maybe it's not every day, then I think it maybe, we say it's Mondays and it's Thursdays, but we have to knit our community back together. And unfortunately, one of the things that's happened in our very fast-paced world is we're eating on the go. And this is in the United States in particular, how many people are eating in their car while they drop their kids off to school or whatever? Our body cannot digest and absorb the nutrients because it's not getting the signals that it needs to do all the work, right? When we start chewing, our saliva produces an enzyme that starts breaking down carbs, and then our stomach has to produce the acids to break down protein. And if we're eating on the go so fast and in such a chronic state of stress, this is why digestive disorders in the United States have skyrocketed. Yeah. So just making the time to sit down and eat and chew thoroughly is going to make all the difference in terms of our physical and mental and emotional health.
Yeah, something as simple as that. Just the way we eat.
Yeah, just that. Yeah, one of the fun things about school is that the kids do have a social meal every day, right? And we're always kind of in there scanning, and some show up, hit it hard, and go fast, but they want to go shoot hoops or play some frisbee. But then there's lots of other kids that are just hanging out, talking, and having that meal, and we think that's important, right?
And this is something I think we need to bring back from other cultures. So many other cultures in Bolivia used to drive my husband crazy because we sit down to a meal and people stay at the table for 45 minutes afterwards, just talking, having conversation, having maybe a coffee or an herbal tea. But that sense of community around meals, I think, it would be incredible for mental and emotional health if we can bring more of that back into our day-to-day lives.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can work on that. I know, last year the one of the highlights for me was when we did the iftar, which was basically community meal, and I hope we'll be able to do that again. And maybe we can't do one every week, but maybe there are some other places where we could come together. And it's something that I think top of the list for Bobbin and I. I mean, this effort with the podcast, some of the other stuff we're trying to do is really, we're interested in trying to make a community, right, and pull it together. And we're bringing Audi Community Yoga back into the mix as well. You want to talk about that? While we got the audience here.
Yeah. Have you been to Audi Community?
I did.
You were early on.
One of the early ones at the stadium.
Yeah.
I think it may have been even during the COVID area when Rio had
More
to be really
space.
spaced out.
Yeah. We've been working on trying to find the right space and place for it, and we're deciding to move forward with it, not this weekend, but the next. And we're going to do it in the Great Lawn in the center of campus, in front of the cafe, between the cafe and the garage. It's a beautiful hill and soft grass.
Nice.
And I'll be bringing the band back, so we'll be doing live music, and it's going to be in an early time slot in the day, so before it gets too hot, and it allows the families to kind of have their routine and their other things that they do afterwards, but to get that self-care piece in, get the community piece in. The only upgrade now I'm thinking about is like a really high-end food truck that would be serving really high-quality food.
Okay. Maybe we start with tea, and then we can. But it's definitely not impossible. But we started doing Audi Community Yoga. Bobbin and I, we started doing it in the pandemic, like you said, Diana, and it was the first thing that we were able to do as a school to bring people back together. We did it out on the football field. That's back when everybody was worried about vectors and spacing and all that. So we did it out on the football field so we could spread and I think that first one we had 200 people out there, and we built it from the beginning. It's fun, it's free, fun, family friendly. So the idea is that you could come as a family. There's the big space of school. We just ask parents, please be prepared to watch your own kids, but that there'll be, in every Audi Community Yoga that we've done, there's been a group of people practicing the yoga, and then just outside of that, oftentimes some parents and younger kids that aren't ready for it running around on the outside kicking a ball, and that sound of play actually kind of works its way back into the flow. And Bobbin's band, the Angeli Project, makes music behind the teacher, and we just kind of flow. You don't have to have any yoga experience. The idea is just being there together. So Saturday the 28th, 9 a.m., Campus Center lawn. And if you're a friend of the pod, you can come. You just have to identify yourself as such, right? We want to know who you are.
Anybody can come. Fly in.
Yeah,
let's do it.
That's it. We might have some fly-ins. You never
know.
Good deal. Well, listen, we're kind of getting close to the end, but I know you're also working on some stuff. I don't know if you want to share this information with the listeners, and then also if people wanted to find you, connect with you, how would they do that?
So I volunteered with the Walk to End Alzheimer's. It's going to be November 8 down at Helix Park, and this is a fantastic opportunity to get friends and family out together. The weather should be nice. Take a 3-mile walk, and the funds go to research. I think it's incredibly important. We're learning so much about, there is a lot we can do to reduce our risk of Alzheimer's, which is predicted to escalate dramatically in the next few years. The economic cost is horrendous, and the emotional cost on families is really incredible. So just getting awareness out that, it's our lifestyle that really can make a difference. It's our managing our stress, the foods that we eat, it's moving our bodies. Anyway, inviting everybody to come out November 8th to Walk for Alzheimer's. You can go, just Google Walk to End Alzheimer's and you can sign up. For me, I'm at colormyfood.com because, again, the more color we put in the food, the more nourished our bodies will be.
All right. Well, thanks for coloring our world this morning. It's always just great to spend time with you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. I love what you guys are doing here, and let's build community.
Yes,
Onward.
we're doing it.
Okay.
Thank you. Namaste.
All right. Namaste, everybody.